Smile, everyone, smile.
Okay. Oh, good to go.
So hello, everyone. Hello and welcome to our session. And I've got here, I'm the host, obviously. My name is Nguyen. I'm going to do a bit of introduction about myself, and then I'll ask all of my panelists to introduce themselves to you before we begin. So my name is Nguyen, and I chair both the Vietnam Angel Network and the ASEAN Business Angel Network with about 5,000 members, and we actively invest into startups across the region. We also have our own syndicated fund to invest into startups. So I'm a very tech startup investor. So I'm very passionate about digitalization, digital transformation, and technology. Hence, I will host the session for today. We have a very diverse expert panel of three gentlemen. So I have the pleasure of hosting gentlemen only today. That doesn't mean that women are not involved into technology, guys. So I'll let them introduce themselves to you guys before we start. I'll start with Aske.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Yeah, so my name is Aske Østergård. I'm from Denmark, and my parents have been so kind to give me two of our special characters. We have three special characters, and in my surname I have two of them. I've been in Vietnam for 13 years, and during these 13 years I've devoted all my time, at least my professional time, to marketing research. I'm currently the CEO and co-founder of Decision Lab, and in Decision Lab, what we are really good at and what we have expertise in, that is to understand what people are doing online. May that be what they are watching online, which social media they are utilizing, or where they are purchasing the things online. So I'm very pleased to be here today. I'm looking very much forward to the conversation. So back and over to you, Van.
Okay, and thank you, Aske. Rakesh, your turn.
Thank you, Ms. Van. Hi, everyone. My name is Rakesh Singh. I'm the country manager for Bidmath here in Vietnam, and I'm the commercial director also for Bidmath. Bidmath is one of the fastest growing programmatic solutions and digital marketing and consultancy company. It's actually powered by machine learning and real-time personalization. I've been associated with this digital marketing and communication industry for last 2 decades, having worked in with agencies like Group M, Publicis, Omnicom, and Havas across several emerging markets like India, Western Central Africa, South Africa, and Southeast Asia. I've been working here in Vietnam since last 7 years. I kickstarted my journey with Havas Media. I was heading the agency for Vietnam. In Vietnam, I really see a tremendous potential. The digital marketing is really growing a lot here, especially categories like e-commerce, fintech, and education technology are driving the growth. And once again, quite excited and honored to be part of this panel discussion, and looking forward to sharing my thoughts and getting some interesting insights from the panelists and the session.
Thank you, Rakesh. And last but not least, guys, our very young, handsome Vietnamese in the panel, Nguyen.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm guessing that I'm the youngest one here. My name is Nguyen, and I'm currently the digital growth marketing manager at Tiki, leading e-commerce sites in Vietnam. So I'm currently working in the business unit, very new. It is a financial products, with our key focus is basically customers can buy insurance on Tiki now. Yeah, and before that, I have experience in OTA and financial and to banking as well. So most of the time I do marketing, digital campaign planning, and integrated marketing as well. And I feel very delighted to be here today to join such experts. So thank you again.
Thank you, Nguyen. So there you go, guys. You have a very diverse background panel. So I would make sure that that you will have some good insights from the panel. I also welcome all the questions, and I will stop at any time to read your questions and get the questions back to the panelists. So make sure that you do so. Guys, so today our subject is about connecting and inspiring customers to engage with brands. But before we go there, let's talk about the two keywords, connect and inspire. What does it mean by connect? What does it mean to you in terms of connection? What does it mean to all the brands in terms of connection? If you could give your insights from your perspective and your point of view about what connection means, especially before and after COVID, that would be good for the audience to have a foundation to start our discussion. I'll start with you, Aske.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, thank you for dividing it up, right? Because in my opinion, connecting and inspiring are not necessarily the same things. Both of them are very, very important indeed, but not necessarily the same thing. So I believe you started to ask me a little bit about what it means to connect with your audience. For me, connection is something that we actually are doing all the time. So as human beings, we are connecting all the time. We're not necessarily inspiring, but we're definitely connecting and we're engaging with each other. And for brands, it's kind of the same. It's the same kind of principle that they need to adhere to, right? I think for me, what is really important for a brand in order to create a proper connection, that is to understand the consumer journey. So if you are a company or brand, then you need to understand the different steps that your consumer is actually going through and what kind of information are they actually looking for in the journey at the different stages, right? So let me just give you an example. For example, I mean, for most consumer journeys, if we're simplifying it, it starts with discovering, then we go to consideration, and then we have the purchase point, and then we have the post-purchase. We just did a fairly big study where we were actually looking into different verticals and what kind of information it is that people are looking for. And I think for a lot of people, especially when it comes to the consideration stage, then it's also a matter of exploring. And sometimes as a consumer, you also becomes more, clever about the product that you're actually doing. For example, when it comes to technology, right, you might actually figure out that when you have been looking into a particular product, you find that some features are actually necessary for your tech product. And what you then do that is that you jump maybe offline to try your product and then back online, and then you're actually purchasing these things here. And I think for what we could see in our study, if you deliver the right information with your consumers at the right stages, then the connection to your consumer becomes more clear, and there is a much higher chance that you actually convert them in a proper way. So that's just my background a little bit and my take on consumer. I think it's very much linked back to information and the consumer journey in general.
Thank you, Aske. Rakesh, what's your point of view on this?
Well, my point of view is, like over the years, we've seen the brands trying to connect in different ways, and they've also been trying to adapt themselves, their connection strategies by making use of the dynamics of the market. Lately, how the brands have moved is largely the way I've observed is they've been adapting three key pillars. They've been trying to understand beyond the psychology of the consumers, the demographics and everything. They've been trying to get into the cultural aspect. So the three key pillars I've seen coming up is culture, community, and commerce, most importantly. So when I say culture, they've been trying to get into resonating with the consumers by understanding the deep cultural insights of the consumer, because when it comes to consumption of any product, it's not necessarily the benefit of the product, but basically what insight or what connection is that brand giving to his cultural aspect. So therefore, for a brand, understanding the culture deeply is the most important part. Then having done that, they are getting into the community aspect, because these days, brand loyalty perhaps doesn't really exist in the market so much, unless and until the brand is something like a brand. To build a loyalty, it's absolutely difficult. So therefore, they have to get into the community aspect and try to resonate with the brand, resonate with the consumers more as a community rather than an individual as such. And then the third pillar is community. Every connection, what they've been doing, they have to have that commerce aspect, the transactional aspect, most importantly, because as we all know, every brand is moving towards e-com. E-com is the only touch point which is growing phenomenally very well, more than double digits, while the other touch points are still in the single digits. So every brand is focusing on commerce. So every connection into and try to getting e-com as such. So that's my perspective on how brands have been trying to connect.
Thanks, Rakesh. And since you mentioned commerciality and e-commerce, we naturally goes to Nguyen.
Okay, sure. So thanks, guys. About this question, I really agree with Rakesh for the terms that even during COVID, that many industries see a different kind of fall down. But for e-commerce, it's like exponential growth. Yeah, so people try to go online, and the e-commerce are there a lot. So I want to mention a little bit about before and after COVID, right? Because I believe that thanks to COVID, partially that we realized that human is actually a social species. So we actually need the connection, not an individual to an individual, but we also need a connection that the brand needs the personalities to actually be there when customers need. Yeah, so I think that is where the connection comes in. That brands need that genuine touch when they talk to every customers. And I think that is where different kind of industries need to jump in and actually connect with customers and know them as a person. Yeah, so I think that is the connection to me.
Nguyen, you mentioned the word genuine touch. I would like to grill down on that and ask all the experts here. What does it mean by genuine touch, and how do you create that genuine touch that you're talking about? Is it online? Is it offline? Is it both? Is it something that has not happened before COVID, or is it very different after COVID? Anyone can go.
I think I can share a bit first, and then you guys. Okay. So for genuine touch here, I mean that before brands tend to think that they only have a one-way communication to customers. Here's advertising and we blast this info to you. So now we believe the genuine touch needs to be a two-sided communication, and brands really need to make conversation with customers. And that is how the genuine here is we know where the customer's pain points are and how that the brands can solve those pain points by having a very interesting and relating story. For example, for Tiki, we sell different kind of stuff out there, right? We like market, but we try to tell customers that here at Tiki, you will have a very authentic products that have high value. And we understand that you need this at this kind of time, because we can know that, as Aske mentioned, we need to know the entire customer's journey, and then we deliver the right message at the same time. So hopefully that's gonna be a right touch.
Yeah, but I also think that I think something happened during COVID, right? I mean, for many brands, for many of our clients at least, suddenly everything just stopped, right? I mean, you couldn't sell your products. Marketing was dead for a longer period. And I think that those that came out a little bit as winners, at least in the consumer's mind, are those that could relate to the situation, right? I mean, remember, a lot of people, they actually lost a job during this pandemic here, right? A lot of people, they lost significant income. So it has been a really, really tough time. And I think the brands that really understood that and not try to benefit, but trying to, show empathy with the consumers, they created a special bond. They created a special relationship. They connected, right? And I think that is something hopefully also brands will remember in the future, right? Because showing that empathy back to your consumers and giving back, right? That is definitely something that have benefited those that did it right? So yes, something magically happened right during the COVID, and if there's a positive thing, then hopefully that is that we will show this connection, build on these relationships that we actually create.
Rakesh, you want to add to that, or?
Just adding to what Ask and Dewey have said, something which we have also observed is trying to real-time media strategies using the first-party data. We do talk about data all the time, and also collecting first-party data. Some brands have been really doing phenomenally well using their data very well. I was just reading some survey recently, which kind of covered what kind of shoppers exist in the APAC market, including Vietnam. So largely the survey said when you look at retail and e-com, largely there are 6 types of shoppers: average shopper, practical shopper, reluctant shopper, unconventional shopper, quality value seeker, and shopping lover. So largely these are the 6 segments. And the brands, the way they've been trying to connect with them is they have been leveraging the CRM data, making use of the data. And once the data is collected, they've been trying to divide it across all these 6 segments, and they've been trying to generate awareness. And of course, creating awareness is just not enough. Once they are aware of the brand, they need to be kind of constantly engaged with that. So, and it's quite normal that people they see the ad and they forget, because there is so much of complexity, there's so much of communication happening out there. So at the third step, what they're doing is they've been trying to identify the consumers, identify the key need of each of the segments differently, and they've been trying to make use of certain new technologies like dynamic creative optimization, and then each of the segments have been exposed to different kind of creative. So that is something markets, and I've largely seen Vietnam using that very, very well. Dynamic creative optimization is not a new thing now anymore. Especially during the pandemic last 2 years, brands have been really using kind of making use of all these new technologies very well, and using the strategies to connect with the consumers. And great thing to for the other markets.
So you Ask mentioned the magic that happens after COVID. You mentioned technology, Rakesh, and Nguyen, you mentioned that now connection means two-sided. There are conversations happening between the brands and the customers. Is it really happening? Where is it happening? What is happening in those conversations? Are we there yet? Are we actually listening, or are we actually gaining any insights from those conversations? I would like to hear your point of view on this. Back to you, Nguyen.
Okay, sure. Okay, so for this, I think that brands have always been traditionally listened. We have a lot of listening tools out there to listen what the social is saying, and if there are any PR crisis happen, right? So that's mostly the things that we did. But now I can see that a very strategic move of brands from not just doing the listening of what customers are saying, but actually building communities and listen to those communities and what are the people inside there talk about the brands. And it's very organic. So you can see that out there are actually groups that have no branded content. So actually the customers just jump in there and they talk about that specific topic. For example, they talk about how to fix their teeth, right? And they share experience of how the tooth fixing, but they have no idea that that group is actually created by a dental clinic. Yeah, so that dental clinic actually benefits from hearing what the customers need, and they know that the discussion is going. But instead of trying to bombard customers with advertising content, they understand what the customers need, and they actually try to tailor different kind of products and try to interact with the brand, between the brand and customers.
So that's conversations between customers and customers. What's your view on this, Aske?
Yeah, but well, I think it has been around for a long time. I mean, we've been talking about co-creating for decades now, or at least a decade, right? So yes, it is certainly going on, and I think what Brian is pointing out here, where you basically are utilizing social media and communities and social media to get some customer feedback. That's great. I also want to say, the line of business that I'm in, right? I'm doing marketing research, and yes, I can tell you that we have a lot of good clients that are certainly listening to the clients and to the market in general, right? You're trying to understand what is it actually out there that people they're looking for. What is the unmet need? What is it that we need to double down on? How do we need to engage with our client differently and so on? So yes, I think a lot of brands, they are certainly doing it, and they're doing it very professionally. But if I go a little bit back to some of the things that Rakesh said, because I think me and Rakesh, we have sort of some of the same ideas with this consumer journey, about delivering the right information at the right time. And I think I must admit, I'm sorry to say it, I still see a lot of brands, even big international brands here in Vietnam, that don't get it. I'm sorry to say it. They think that they're utilizing programmatic in the best possible way, but they aren't. I mean, they might not even be utilizing programmatic. That might be an agency selling them that it's programmatic, but in reality it's not. And I think there is so much there that we still have to learn here in Vietnam. There's so much that we can do smarter and better. There's so much about creating, and I keep coming back to delivering the rightful content, the right content to the consumer at the right point in time. It's so important in order to get that connection with the consumer. Because for me, connection can be many, many layers. Now we talked a little bit about COVID, where we are making very deep connections, deeply rooted connections, where we really get all the emotions out, right? Whereas for me, sometimes that's not necessary. We don't necessarily, in order to build a meaningful relationship or meaningful connection, we don't necessarily need to play on all the emotions, but we need to make sure that we are relevant to that person that is then looking at us as a brand at that point in time. And I think programmatic certainly have some of it that we are not really utilizing from a technology perspective. I also think the e-commerce platforms here, they are becoming more and more important in the consumer journey. And then, of course, the whole retail, landscape, in my opinion, is changing tremendously. I think there are still certain categories where the purchase primarily happens offline. But what we also see more and more frequently, that is that people are using it as concept stores to go out, try the product before they then go back online, right? So we've been talking about O2O for a long time in when it comes to digital and marketing, but I think there's something about O2O2O, right, where there's an O more on it, right? Because we go from online to offline and then back online, because we want to make sure that we are getting the best value, right? So yeah, that was just a few perspectives on this one.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Rakesh?
My thought is, I was also reading and observing that actually most of the commerce, most of the shopping hackers trying to discover something. It's not happening because they're trying to search for something, and therefore that comes to the importance of how social commerce has become more important. Social commerce has overtaken brick and mortar to be the second most preferred buying channel. It is, of course, number two, because e-com platforms are still number one, but social commerce is something growing phenomenally well. It's number two as per the latest survey. I think if I remember, it was a survey done by Facebook along with Bain, which was published recently, a couple of months back, which very clearly indicated. And also, I think Aske has also done some survey from Decision Life. I was just kind of reading that as well, which clearly indicate how social commerce is gaining lots and lots of importance. And the reason why it's gaining importance is because people, they're actually buying because they're discovering, because they're spending so much of time on social. And the reason why they're spending time is, it's not that just they want to connect with someone, but they want to do a lot of things. They are finding social to be the entertainment platform. They're finding social to be a news platform. They're finding entertainment to social to be a video platform. Multiple things are being done on social. This something which is actually growing again phenomenally well is conversational commerce. Talking about the local brands like Lazada's, L'Oreal is a classic example. I also heard that L'Oreal's 50% of the revenue comes from e-com, and they have also been using conversational commerce very well. They have built-in chatbots and trying to converse, and which is giving them very good results. So these are some of the observations.
On that point, Aske, that Rakesh is mentioning about social commerce, are you actually seeing that happening from a market research point of view? Are brands actually embracing it, and are they actually using it, and what's the result of that?
Yeah, well, so it's an interesting one, right? Because yes, we have been looking into that, and what we can see that is that social commerce, if we look at it as a e-commerce platform here in Vietnam, it would roughly be number 3. And there are a lot of social medias that are basically doubling down on this one here. May that be, I mean, Facebook is spending a lot of money to come up with good solutions for the brands. TikTok is also doing it right now, right? They're trying really, really hard. Instagram have been around and so on. So yes, social commerce is certainly something that we are observing here. Is it the same as what we're seeing in China? No, not at all, and we're not even close. But it's certainly there, and it's a big business. That's for sure. And what we are seeing that is driving social commerce here in Vietnam is actually convenience. A lot of consumers find it extremely convenient that it's just popping up in the newsfeed and suddenly it's there. There's a shop and you can buy, right? That's what is driving this one here right now. I think there are a lot of issues with social commerce here in Vietnam as well. There are, for example, feedback verification. So if you, for example, as a company or as a brand, you have your own page on, say, for example, Facebook, and you get a lot of reviews in there, a lot of the consumers, they don't really believe in these reviews here because there's no verification of these kind of things here. It's also some of the things that some of the e-commerce platforms have been struggling with here in Vietnam. They're understanding that this is important, whereas the social media platforms, they're not there. But yes, it is certainly something here in Vietnam, and we can see that it's growing. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is that happening in Tiki? Nguyen, give us some real examples of what you do in terms of social commerce at Tiki.
So for social commerce, within Tiki, we actually build a social newsfeed in there. Yeah, so it can adapt with the behavior of customers scrolling their social media. So we actually have that kind of newsfeed within Tiki, and the sellers try to sell their products in that kind of newsfeed. Yeah, so that is social commerce within Tiki. So we understand that the concept of social commerce on social media like Facebook and Instagram, they happen so much. And that is actually something we can say a bit of a competition between how we try to win customers, right? Because customers, why they need to go to Tiki and buy in this, or they can just buy something on the Instagram, because it's more convenient. Yeah. So there's a lot of channels for customers to buy right now, and the competition is so fierce. So for the thing that Aske said, that is true, I think, because on those Facebook and Instagram, customers cannot actually verify if that product is good enough. Are there any customer bought it before? What is the quality? But they actually can do this on our e-commerce sites, because every verification reviews, most of them are verified, because customers need to purchase before they can review. Yeah, so I think there's still a competitive advantage of our e-commerce sites comparing to the social commerce. Most of them are, I think, is pretty small or an extra channel of the big brand.
Sure. I would just want to add on this one here, if I may, because I mean, I think social commerce here in Vietnam, it started to grow really, from 5, maybe 2 years back. And a lot of people, they have bad experiences with social commerce. I'm just saying. And the reason for this is that you go online, you go to a shop, you purchase something, and it looks splintered, right, on the page. Then it comes, right, it's just a completely different product, right? So I think a lot of people, unfortunately, they have been in this situation where they're purchasing something online, but they're getting something completely different delivered. And that's one of the issues. And that's also why this whole verification process is super important, right? And I think especially e-commerce companies here in Vietnam, of course, also Tiki, they have really understood that, and they're really doubling down on this one here, making sure that the consumers, they feel, they feel confident when they are clicking purchase and spending the money on the site, right? So yeah.
Okay, I just want to turn the table a little bit and asking about measurement, because when you start talking about connection, right? How connected can we connect? How much is enough in terms of connection between brand and customers? So I would like to hear your point of view as a brand owner. How do I know? How do I measure if my brand is connected to the consumers? Anyone can go. Rakesh, maybe you first.
I feel, like as a brand, every brand has certain KPIs. Those KPIs can be again on certain parameters. They do have brand health checks regularly. So when it comes to connection points, perhaps of course, they would like ideally the brands would need to have kind of certain connection touch points as well, touch point KPIs as well, and have to constantly measure. Like we had the luxury of getting data access on a regular basis, so rather than the brand health check being done 6 months later, they would need to check those parameters on a regular basis and see how the KPIs are being met on a regular basis. What kind of addressing or meeting on the social on a regular basis, and those need to be met, kind of improvised, modified on a regular basis. So those kind of tactics is something the brands would need to adapt.
You wanna add on that, Aske?
Yeah, definitely I can add on that one. Yeah, so I very much agree with Rakesh on this one here. I think obviously you need to measure your whole brand funnel, right? And it starts with your brand awareness, right? Then there's something about brand favorability, then there's something about consideration, and there's something about purchase. That, of course, is something you need to measure. And I'm also still curious in this market. It's very few brands that are really, measuring these brand health metrics more or less constantly. The solutions are available here in the market. They can go and find really good solutions where they get this data here more or less on a continuous basis, on an everyday basis. But I see a lot of brands that they're only doing it once or maybe twice per year, and I think it's a shame. Honestly, I think it's a shame. I think when you're doing your brand equity measurement, which is a little bit different in my opinion. Yes, sure, maybe do that once a year because you don't need to check your equity all the time. But now again, we're talking about connection. Are we making the right connections? It needs to be something that we're measuring more or less constantly, right? Because the world is changing all the time, and I guarantee most brands, they're sending information out in the market all the time. And when you're sending information or messages out into the market, of course you need to figure out, is that working? Are we getting the right feedback on these kind of things here? Maybe not necessarily only in sales, but then in terms of, are we getting people closer to our brand, either in terms of favorability, purchase intent, or whatnot, right? And I'm still surprised that now we are in 2022, and here in Vietnam we are still only maybe measuring our brand health once or maybe twice, if you're very good every quarter, right?
Yeah, and we would like to hear your stories and your metrics. How are you measuring your connection at Tiki?
Yeah, so for that, I totally agree with Aske because, we talk about measuring our brands a lot, but do we actually do it? So about what my role is, I actually try to look at the growth of what we're selling. So actually, we try to look at the final numbers a lot, the actual performance of, yes, we know that we still invest money to raise awareness of customers that Tiki sells this, Tiki sells that, but at the end of the day and at the end of the quarter, we actually just look at the number of actual sales. So that's what my role is, trying to pick up the numbers in terms of entire customer journey and how to optimize stage by stage, instead of checking a share of voice, which is more of a brand related measurement, but may not be really applicable for the total target of our business. Yeah.
So very much efficiency based at the moment. Okay. Yeah. On that, I would like to now move to the next keyword, which is inspire. What does it mean? What does it mean by inspiring the customers? What do you have to do as a brand to inspire the customers? I'll go back to Rakesh and would like to hear your point of view on this.
I guess the biggest inspiration which I see is, the purchase funnel, which we all know, from discovery to consideration to engagement to activation. That purchase funnel is probably getting shorter and shorter because thanks to the e-com and social commerce, a lot of discovery and everything has been cut short, and all those things is happening at the social platform itself. So that is something the brands need to focus a lot, because we can know that our time or on time frame is quite limited of any audience. They would not really have time to go through and that journey on that short. So how easily or how relevant can a brand be in those shorter connection consumer journey is something the brands will need to focus on. A lot of things which are happening on the other platforms at the discovery stage need to now happen on the commerce platforms like e-com or social commerce.
So relevancy is very much what you're looking for. Okay, Aske?
Yeah. So that's the reason why I was so glad when you divided it up into connection and inspire and inspiration, because for me inspiration is a lot more than connection, relevancy, and so on. I think if you do inspiration correctly, you are inspiring people to think differently, right? Or you're elevating people's life. I mean, for the better, right? For the better, not just elevating, but for the better. And that's the reason why I think inspiration is so difficult. And I think for the companies that are really doing it well, it's something that is kind of embodied into either the company values or into the brand DNA. That shouldn't hold people back from not trying to inspire, but I'm just thinking inspiration is really something that is difficult to crack. I think personally, one of the brands that have inspired me and many other people, many million people, is probably Nike, right? With the "just do it," right? That whole phrase of saying "just do it," it gets us to think differently, right? About a lot of different aspects in life, and just go for it instead of sitting and holding back and so on. And that's inspiration, in my opinion. And you've been building so many good marketing campaigns based on that one. I think one that have really also changed our life will be something like Grab. I remember when I was here 13 years ago, I mean, when it came to transportation, the way that we were ordering food and so on was very different than now. Today, if I am to find a showroom guy, for example, I will not go down to the street corner. I will go in on Grab, and then I will find my showroom driver. And I think a company like that have certainly been trying to change our lives for the better. May that be us as consumers, or may that actually be the people or those that are providing the service via that app. And that is, in my opinion, that's inspiration. That's where when it's done correctly, right? That's where we are setting the bar very high. So yeah, that's my 5 cents or 2 cents on on inspiration.
Right. And what about you, Nguyen? Do you think Tiki is an inspiring brand?
I think so. Yes.
You can't say no.
So in terms of inspiring customers, I think that it just makes me remember a very famous phrase of Marie Kondo, the tidying expert of Japan. She says that keep the things that spark joy, right? So I'm thinking that inspire customers here, maybe that make their shopping experience can spark joy. Customer can actually feel that the entire shopping experience is joyful. They are not actually buying, they're actually shopping. So I think that's what e-commerce are trying to do. It is like, you feel that you step in the store and you browse stuff, yeah, and you feel the joy of browsing. So I think that's what the e-commerce are trying to replicate that. Customers will scroll and they find there are so many things that they may not need, but they find very fun when browsing. Yeah, and then e-commerce try to step in the game. They have different kind of videos. They have different kind of live and games to make our apps more fun, and customers spend more time doing different things instead of buying. Yeah, but we know at the end, of course, customer will buy. Yeah, so I think that's how we can inspire customers to have a joyful experience before actually making the purchase.
I'm going to try to be a very difficult audience here and say that, okay, I'm hearing joy, I'm hearing values, DNA, relevancy. Is that it? Like, is there anything else that you guys can do to make you guys so inspiring to customers? And if I'm a brand owner and I don't think I have an inspiring brand at the moment, what should I do? What are some of the things that I could do immediately to actually make my brand inspiring? Anyone can go.
Okay, I'll go first. Actually, that's where I would try to do a little bit of selling for Ask. Actually, that's where the importance of research comes in. For every brand, it's most the consumer. Unless until he understands his consumer well, he's never going to give him the right solution. And as we also spoke some time back, the things have moved from understanding the entire consumer as such and moving into different segments, because the fact of the matter is, while a larger demographic exists, certain clusters exist, but different within those small clusters, there are certain cohorts also which exist. So the brands would need to understand them well, and they have to start connecting with them in that particular phase. Actually, that is something which can be the starting point for any brand, and dynamics are changing on a daily basis. Actually, once they understand that, then I think that's a smooth, kind of actually smooth walk for them.
And Aske Singh's Rakesh is selling you.
Yeah. I can do that, right? I don't need to do the pitch here. So, no, but I think you can also turn a little bit around and then say, why should we be inspiring, right? Why should we as a brand be inspiring? I mean, why shouldn't we just be non-inspiring? I mean, and if you go back to that one, I read a study here recently, actually from Wonderman Thompson, who have been looking into the data set, and I think it was a very, very big data set that they have actually been analyzing. And I think two things comes out, and that is that inspiring brands in general, they have a higher growth, so they're growing better in the market, and they also command a price premium. Right? So they're typically a little bit more premium in the market than other brands. And those two things are things that many brands they would like to have, right? Sure. And you can say, okay, if you're a brand that really wants this one here, but maybe are a little bit in doubt about are you actually then inspiring, then I think going back to what Rakesh was saying here, of course you need to start analyzing the market, and you need to start looking into your particular vertical or your particular industry, and a brand health check would be a good start, right? I mean, understanding who are the winners in your current market, what are the drivers of this particular category, what is it that people actually want from the brand when it comes to whatever market that we're talking with. That would be a good starting point, and then from there it's a lot about, okay, how do we then build our brand strategy on these particular drivers, and then we can go back to maybe relevancy and say, okay, how do we make ourselves more relevant in this particular category right now? So yes, doing market research would be a good start.
There you go, inspirational research. That's next for you. Back to Nguyen. So
Yeah,
you think Tiki is very inspiring? Yeah.
So I totally agree that a new brand, say that not many people know about, and how we try to make that brand inspire, that's gonna be extremely difficult. And because when we want try to make customer remember our brand is actually difficult enough, and now we want our brand to actually inspire. That's gonna be a bigger problem we're trying to solve. But as we always say, that we need to know the customers first, and we try to resonate with that specific niche of customers instead of trying to inspire everyone, because that's not gonna work. Yeah. So yeah, I just echo what you guys already said.
All right. What about the aspect of community and the wider public? Obviously, you're trying to inspire your customers, but is it enough? Do you have to do more to actually inspire also the wider public, the society at large? Just a question.
I think that's gonna be that's doable, but that's not impossible. But that's if a brand wants to aim for that, that's gonna be very high vision. Yeah, and there's need to be a very comprehensive strategy of how to get there. And it needs to be broken down into different stages, because you cannot have sleep one night and you hope to get something viral and then you inspire everyone. Yeah, that's not going to work. Yeah.
One of the keywords that I heard a lot recently is sustainability. And it seems like people are talking a lot about it, and it becomes very inspiring. What do you think about that? And how are brands performing in terms of sustainability, do you think? Aske, I'll go back to you.
Yeah, well, it's one of the questions that I also have, to be very honest. I mean, because when we're looking at Europe, sustainability is a big thing. I think it's the same in the US, to be very honest. Actually, recently it was such a big thing that certain elections in Europe actually been determined on the candidate's profile to sustainability and climate change. And it's a really good question. Where are we right now in Vietnam with this one here? We are coming out with a report on this one here on Friday tomorrow, because I really want to see what is going on here in Vietnam, because I think for the longest time we have all believed that at least the new generation C, right, they're more involved in political things. They're more involved in our society. Much more educated than previous generations. It's also the first generation that actually go through wealth. They have not really been experiencing hunger, or a country that didn't have the means to take care of them and so on. So it's really interesting to see where are we right now. And I think if I look a few years ahead, maybe even less, I think this is gonna be a major topic. And I think the brands that don't understand that right now, they really need to go back and look at the brand strategy, and then they need to start incorporating. Because I think people will start to say no to brands that don't care about sustainability and the climate change. And I think if we're not there yet in Vietnam, then within very short time we will be there. We will be there, because that's what we are seeing in around the world. But it's going to be interesting to see where we are right now. I'm really looking forward to the report.
Us too. So please share that understanding once you get it. Rakesh, I'll go back to you and ask you for your opinion about sustainability.
My thought on this is, if you look at the brand's objective, about 80% of the brands out there in the market are now talking to the Gen Zs and the millennials. The Gen Zs and the millennials currently happen to be most powerful audience segment today in every market, not only Vietnam, in Southeast Asia, but across the globe. And there are very few brands who have existed in this space for a longer duration. For example, brands like, actually something which actually comes to my mind is like Nike has been talking about just do it for ages. Now the millennials who exist today were not the millennials in the past, but they still resonate with the brand. So and taking learnings from brands like Nike, what the brands need to do is to remain sustainable, to remain kind of resonate with the brand segment. They have pillars, which would, of course, those pillars need to be there on the larger scale, but then they need to keep adapting as per the local, recent market dynamics, latest market dynamics. And if they do that, then they would be able to kind of relate to the audience on a regular basis, and they would be sustaining for a longer time.
Nguyen, maybe one example that Tiki is embracing sustainability, if it is.
So for Tiki as a bigger brand, I think that we just do the things that not just Tiki, but I think that the Vietnamese companies, they are not really embracing what we are trying to talk about, like being politically correct and trying to try to be where at the level of different companies in other countries are. So as I can mention that there are different kind of trends, and the war between Russia and Ukraine. So there are several brands that if they don't talk, that is actually an action. And not doing anything is actually an action already, and customers will make judgment on that. So being politically correct right now in Vietnam, I think is not reaching that maturity yet. But it will be soon, and I think that brands really need to be aware of what's happening in the macro environment and trying to be at the level of expectation that customers and audience want to see. Yeah.
So I hope to see more inspiration in this particular area instead of just being politically correct in the future.
Yeah.
Now moving to the future, since we're talking about the future, what does the future hold for connection and inspiration for customers? Are we talking about new stuff like NFT, metaverse, these very buzzwords in the world of technology at the moment? Or or where are we heading? Are we heading back to humanity and the physical touch and the love and the joy that we can share with each other physically, or everything is now moving online? Back to you. Maybe I'll start with Rakesh.
Yeah, I guess I think internet is like online is going to be evolving again. Would continue evolving. It would actually it will become better and better, and in that process, data would continue to gain importance. So therefore, the importance of metaverse would definitely come into picture. The brands would have to definitely start adapting AI and VR kind of innovations in the connection strategies. I've also seen some brands have already started doing that, like brands like kind of actually L'Oreal has done has really adapted in the communication touch point. So brands would have to start using those and also have their own CRM and like in-house CRM platform, because now like very soon there's going to be a cookieless world, so they would have to make use of kind of curate their own data and make use of data very well. So therefore the importance of metaverse is going to become more important in the future.
Very, very technology focused at the moment. What about non-technology stuff? What do you see, Aske, in terms of research? What have you seen brands moving forward to?
While Rakesh he was talking here, I was sitting and philosophizing a little bit about this one year, because we've just been through this pandemic here, and I think here in Vietnam very recently also a lockdown, a fairly strict lockdown, and I think for a lot of people that make them reassess what is social interactions and how much we actually need social interactions as well. So when we're then talking about, say, for example, metaverse versus not metaverse, internet versus not internet, and so on, I think it will all be there, to be very honest, right? As a brand, you will need to understand that there are certain things that have to happen offline. I keep coming back to this with the quality, for example, right? There are certain products in the consumer journey. You will go out and you want to have it there, right? Now L'Oreal have been doing a lot of great things, but I know in the skincare industry there are a lot of ladies that really want to go out and try these things here before they purchase it. So they actually go to the store, then they go back online, and then they go maybe to Tiki to purchase it, right? And I think some of these things here will still be needed in the future. I think maybe it's going to be drawn up a little bit more clear what it is then that you then will like to do offline and what you would like to do online, may that be a metaverse or social media platform or an e-commerce platform. And I think a lot of things are right now, as I see it, they are happening right now. The platforms are trying to separate, right? They're trying to, have their USPs and being strong at what they're doing. So I think that the future will hold, a mixture of these different channels, and hopefully the channels will become more clear what the channel have to offer for that particular brand, for that particular consumer.
Thank you, Aske. And what about you, Nguyen? Where is Tiki heading? What is the future for Tiki?
So I think that we embrace the future a lot in terms of, we just launched a brand new, blockchain-based kind of reward system. So instead of we have a reward like, okay, here's the gift, we have actually a blockchain below, and we actually reward customers thanks to the algorithm. And that is what I think is brands will continue to adopt different kinds of technologies, and that's definitely be for sure. But I think for the future, for all, I think there's gonna be even blended. Yeah, will be so much more experience, because as the virtual landscape, they are growing so much. The core of the human will be even more important, and customers will then try to have that a human touch between each other, and that is where brands will still have the place to stand in customers if they can be that friend, that person, that characteristics that the person can reach to. So I think that the blend between a virtual life and physical life will be even they could clash each other and have a very exciting dynamic in the future. And brands really need to be aware and stand on your toes for what's coming up. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're reaching our time limit at the moment. So before we leave, I would like our three panelists to actually, wrap up with one keyword so that our audience can take it back and apply it into their brand's connection and inspiration experience moving forward. So what is that one keyword that you would like to send across the screen, actually? Anyone can go.
Maybe I can go with the Nike's slogan saying "Just do it," right? In the way that I think, I mean, it's complicated to be both inspiring and connecting and so on. And I think, in my honest opinion, it all starts with your own understanding of your own brand and what you are actually delivering to your client, the experience that you would like to deliver to the client, the product or the service for that matter that you would like to deliver. And having that proper understanding, well, that will lead hopefully to something that is inspiring and connecting, right? And then again, technology, as I see it, it's an enabler, but it cannot be the mean in itself, right? Unless you are selling technology. So just remember, technology will be changing all the time, and what you need to, as a brand, that is to understand how you can harness the value of these kind of things here. So going back to Nike's slogan, "Just do it." Start. Go ahead with this journey.
Just do it is the word that actually a phrase that Aske is sending you guys. What about you, Rakesh? What is your keyword?
I feel culture and humanity would be at the heart of the social commerce strategy for all the brands. As you know, social commerce is growing. So while the discussion on social commerce is often dominated by data, algorithms, and platforms, brands must not discount the human and the cultural element and consider a few steps while building relevant content structure for the brands. Few steps actually which comes to my mind is they have to be focusing on community as a vehicle. The emergence of cultural commerce. Brands need to embrace story selling rather than just storytelling. Seamless experience is something they need to offer. Don't just focus on selling alone, but social engagement and authentic dialogue is the key. And better end-to-end infrastructure is critical for an exponential growth for the brands.
Thank you, Rakesh. Human, and I like that word. I like human at the end of the day, right? So, Nguyen, what about your keyword?
So my keyword would be there. Not just keywords. So just be there for customers and be there in the market, be there in the trends, and know what the world is going, and then the brands can actually embrace the change and deliver what's best in the brand to the customers. So please be there for the customers. Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. I haven't actually received any questions, but we don't have time anyway. So the three keywords as you hear. Be there, the three phases actually, be there, embrace culture and community, be very human, and just do it by Aske. We have spent the last 1 hour talking about connection and inspiration. As you can see, connection to our panelists would mean insight, would mean culture, community, commerciality, genuine touch. And then when we talk about inspiration, we hear relevancy, we hear DNA, we hear values, we hear joy, a lot of fun actually being engaged with the brands. And we talked about sustainability, and we hope that we will have sustainable brands in the future instead of just being politically correct. So I hope that you have gained some insights and knowledge and advice as well from our panelists for today. So I thank very much my panelists for today, and I thank the audience for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for a very exciting panel. And we have concluded today's program. Thank you for joining us. And please do visit the lounge for networking and the booth. This will open 13 minutes. We hope to have you again next year. We'll be sending you the survey form, so please help to improve the experience. We hope to see everyone in person soon. So see you again. Thưa
See
quý
you
vị
next
khán
year.
giả, vậy là chúng ta đã
Metaverse.
đi đến kết của buổi hội nghị ngày hôm nay rồi. Cảm ơn sự đồng hành của tất cả quý vị. Sau đây thì quý vị khán giả vui lòng ghé thăm các phòng chờ và các gian hàng của chúng tôi. Các phòng chờ này thì sẽ được mở thêm trong vòng 30 phút nữa. Rất là hy vọng sẽ được gặp lại quý vị khán giả vào hội nghị trong năm tới. Các mẫu khảo sát thì sẽ được gửi tới quý vị khán giả và rất mong quý vị có thể đóng góp ý kiến để giúp chúng tôi ngày một hoàn thiện hơn. Xin chào tạm biệt và hy vọng sẽ sớm gặp lại quý vị khán giả.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you and bye bye.